against Nick has to be addressed.
Hello, welcome everybody. Alex
ago.
Jones, Nick Fuentes.
And, Nick's a smart guy, so he doesn't mind something Nick's
I think
on.
this will be very enjoyable. You guys will like it.
Because I like all these people, and I need them all to succeed, especially people like Elon Musk. And behind the scenes, you see Roger, the articles are publishing about trying to get him back in the White House.
So welcome in, guys. Appreciate it. And
a lot of the big problems started then.
This ought to be a good one.
I
have
had more
hope you guys enjoy.
In the streets.
This will be a really good one, guys.
Bike trail, family, grocery stores. I mean, basically everywhere I go, they come up and talk about Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson and all the rest of this, Candace Owens, and that's interesting because I know Buzz. I've been on the air 31 years, had success pretty much right away locally, and then within a few years got syndicated. So I had big success 25 years ago. So I know buzzes when I see them. And this buzz rivals buzzes when I've go on Joe Rogan and it gets 100 million views. I can count on one hand the times I've seen buzzes this big. When Trump's come on the show and stuff like that, this in ways is bigger. And that shows how seismic it is. And yeah, it's true. The attacks on Fuentes backfired, and it's making it exponentially bigger. And so,
oh, what happened? Ah, crap. Sorry, guys. I got a little rambunctious there. Let's get back to it. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is.
They dismantled it under Biden. He's scaling up. I know Trump's backed off some on the skilled visa stuff, so Nick's got his points, but still, I want to ask Nick, why are you just 100%, it seems, on Trump and not the Democrats? That's probably my biggest beef, because we can criticize Trump all day and try to keep him on the straight and narrow and be mad at him if we won, and not even supporting, but we can support good stuff he's doing. So why does Nick spend most of his time on Trump? And I think that's a legitimate question. We'll go to Nick here in a moment, but first, my message to the globalists, who are the real enemy, that they have awoken the terrible giant. And Trump's just a symbol of that, riding in on the surfboard. We brought this global awakening, and it is supercharged right now. And the man of the moment, which once you hit this type of moment, it isn't a moment, it goes on, and it gets bigger, is Nick Fuentes. And I talked to him a couple weeks ago. I saw him on his own show that night because I watched part of it the next morning when I was working out. He said, yeah, I think they're going to try to come after me and kill me now. Well, they already have. I called him and I said, let me tell you, I've been around the block. You better watch your ass, because you're about to go next level, and the Death Star is going to take a shot at you. So here's our message to the globalists. Remember, folks, they're the real enemy, and they're in trouble. Here is the terrible giant. We'll go right to Nick Fuentes. Everybody watching, share the live feed right now from his feed at Rumble, ours at Rumble, Real Alex Jones on X, Infowars.com/show. Share it, because this is going to be a lively discussion, a lot of inside baseball,
sorry, guys,
a real debate, and more. We'll go as long as Nick wants to go. Stay with us. We are the #1 hated and attacked media organization in the world by every evil, disgusting, sickening organization on the face of the planet.
You can catch it live on my profile.
If you're going to go,
right here,
go as big as you can. That's why John Hancock literally saw people signing their names, little bitty, and people he knew signing them. You really couldn't tell who they were, and I get it. Every person signing them was signing
their potential death warrant. He got up there and went, AJN on Twitter,
and he said, if I'm going to have the king coming after me, I want him to come after me #1.
That's a pretty large signature, Johnny.
Yeah, I'm going to risk my life fighting tyranny. Anybody that's ever been in fights, looking for fights, but you've been in a few. You learn, you hesitate when somebody's trying to beat the hell out of you.
Hold on, guys. He's on a commercial right now. So tonight's debate will be Nick Fuentes, Alex Jones. I think it'll be a good one. They always have a really great conversation, so I think this will be very enjoyable and something to watch for sure. I hope you guys can hear everything well. Let's get back to Alex here.
All of this, the Soros scum. And
I'm going to mute it for now, because I'm going to grab something to drink here. And we're all set up. We're ready to go. Man, this is going to be a good one tonight. Him and Nick usually have really great conversations, so I'm kind of excited for this. Here it is. Let's get it. Oh wait, nope.
Guess what?
Oh, it's still a commercial. Still a commercial. So, man, this is gonna be good. I was waiting for this all day, man. Man, I love when they do this. Alex should do this more often, honestly. It's just something that I really enjoy watching, and what a show it always is. You know what I mean? Very, very good. Okay, guys, I'm gonna hold on. Let me see.
Every
No, he's got music going. I can't when the music's going. Yeah, it's great. I'm sorry, guys. I've been a little lackluster with the podcast lately and streaming. I started a new job, so it's been a little rough. I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's been a little hectic. I'm just getting used to it. There will be a lot more podcasts coming, and I'll be streaming a lot more often here. I just wanted to get this first weekend and get used to the job and stuff. So, but other than that, yeah, everything's been going pretty good, guys. Oh, here we go. Oh, no, still this. All right, let me go grab something to drink and get my stuff all set up here. I didn't think this was going to start for another hour yet, so I'm excited. Nick, as you guys know, has been attacked on every angle lately, and I personally believe it was a setup between Candace Owens. That interview was, they could have talked about so much more. They could have talked about Trump. They could have talked about Ukraine. They could have talked about Israel. They could have talked about a lot of things. I saw most of it. Here it is. There it is. Woo, woo. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be really good. Oh, yep. Okay, so it's got music. I can't play it just yet. Alright. As soon as that music's over, give it a minute.
They didn't want me in the courtroom, but I was watching and called me with that Guerra Gamble that did that rigged court case with the show trial and all that. And after the debate tonight with Nick Fuentes, I'll give you a huge update.
This is it right here.
Remember how they did a fake auction and got caught and the judge said it was illegal? Remember how they closed the doors and turned the internet off and the judge overrode them? They just appointed a receiver and gave them the order to send in the Austin Travis County Sheriff's Department and seize the building when there's a stay and the federal judge has blocked it. And that's going to be huge when they come in here and grab the building and then a federal judge overrides them. It's cut and dry. But it's just like these federal judges saying Trump can't deport people when it's right in the Constitution. So, of course, it got overridden by the Supreme Court and other appellate courts. I mean, when you know the law, it's cut and dry. And she just did it again. And she told my lawyers, you can't talk. I'm doing this. So I don't know what the Sheriff's Department's going to do. I don't know if they come tomorrow, next week. I mean, you can't make up cliffhangers like this. So I'm pretty pissed off and wound up. So that's coming up. But it's also just really good from what I've been told. I mean, this is crazy. But it shows how desperate they are. Now, I wanted to get Nick on, and I asked him to come on this week, to, discuss the whole waterfront and where the world's going, and also Netanyahu's trying to drag us into war with Iran again and all the rest of it. And I wanted to debate him on the border and enforcement, because I think Trump overall is doing the best job with the tools they have and they're gearing up. It'll be a friendly debate. But since then, he's come out and said, he thinks, that Trump wants this as a police state, so for Israel or something. And Israel is involved with anti-free speech laws and training police and things. So that's actually a real fear, I believe. But I don't see that as why Trump's doing this. We'll debate that. And that's a real issue I disagree with Nick on. And I'm going to let him put out his view on it. I don't want to misrepresent it. But as I just said in the intro, I don't think I've ever seen buzz this big.
Ooh, here it is.
On the topic. I mean, every time I go out in public and walk around at least 10, 15 people, if I see the guy comes to clean the pool or something, he doesn't bring it up. But I mean, if I get around a gas station, a grocery store, anywhere, multiple people bring up Nick Fuentes and this big battle, and everybody thinks he's being ganged up on, and he's a really smart guy, and wow, they heard he was a bad guy, but now they love his show, and the show's been big forever. He's been around 8 years or so, 9 years, but it's exploded. And I know when something explodes like that, I called him a week and a half ago and I said, you better get ready for the big attacks. And look, I'm not fighting with Tucker or Candace or Elon Musk. I love all those people. And I think they have their own, perspectives and their own issues. And I defended Tucker because he confided me 2 weeks after his dad died when I was up there with him for a few days, having dinner and lunch, that, wow, I knew he worked with the CIA because USA did and Voice of America,
guys, here we are.
all that, but I didn't know he was high level. He was high level. I said, Tucker, come on. That's so I don't think Tucker's lying about that. So I've said my little intro, but just in general, I have been extremely famous for 15 years. I mean, really famous for 25, 30. So I know what it's like. I know what happens. I know how people get jealous. They come after you, or they think you're a bad guy. A lot of stuff happens. And, Nick's 26, but he's been, active, for politics for at least 10 years or so. So he's a big guy. But at the same time, it's this phenomenon that goes on that is a zeitgeist. And when you become the symbol of a zeitgeist, as I have been and as Trump has been and only a few others, and Tucker is kind of the voice of the populist conservative movement, he's an icon. When you get to that level, just a lot of things happen that are good and or bad. But bigger than Nick Fuentes is the issue of the symbol he's become, and the fact that that's a bellwether or a canary in the coal mine that the Great Awakening's been accelerating for at least 10 years, but it's exploding now. And there is a total break with the system and anything seen as establishment. And so is it healthy to have all this fighting and all these people going after each other? Well, at the end of the day, it is healthy to have a debate about the populist movement and the Republican Party and our ongoing, somewhat successful takeover of that. And so overall, this is very positive what's happening, and really the end of political correctness, people not just minding being unpolitically correct, but actually reveling in it, understanding that we've been bullied and intimidated, and that's a very healthy thing. But then out of that, you can swing too far to the other side, which I believe is a danger as well. So we are in a time of momentous change. There are a lot of people, the Democratic Party is certainly still in their bubble, but a lot of Republicans that really aren't even neocons, but rub shoulders with both sides of the populist and neocon movement, that, like Charlie Kirk, that now are sounding now more like Fuentes, and then just like Fuentes at
Nick ain't no
Turning
fan,
Point,
man. That's ridiculous.
and all these other groups.
That is fucking
8-9 years
ridiculous.
ago, they saw he was a smart guy.
Hold on. While he's doing his diatribe here, Nick ain't no Fed, man. If anything, those other people have much more ties into that than Nick Fuentes does. So, yeah, they can spew their bullshit all they want, but we all know reality.
I've got to come out against what's happening in Israel. You have to, okay? There's no other way. But then I don't want to be associated, not because I get attacked or because the ADL be mean to me, they already are, with the people that take it to the total cuckoo land and, say evil only exists because of these interests when there's other fish to fry and other issues as well. Though Israel, through Netanyahu and others, is trying a full takeover in this power vacuum of the White House, so now I've gone great guns and said now this is the big central attack, because it is true what people were saying in the past. It was partially true before, now it really is, and so we have to just be honest about that. But that's not because I didn't hold back because I didn't want to be attacked. I was being attacked even more because I was attacking the policies of the globalists, which Israel supports, and others, and the Chi-Coms all are in alignment. And so I was getting a big tent and mainlining this. That was what I was doing, but that was good in the past and helped build all of this. Now it's all out in the open. Now we move into the out in the open mask-off battle. So that's a long 15-minute rant intro. I'm going to give Nick Fuentes the floor here for at least 15 minutes. and we'll start the debate portion after that. And I appreciate him being here tonight. I know he's got his own stream coming up this evening as well, at like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. He does it different times. To go wherever you want, but I'd like you to also spend some time addressing the attacks that have really, I mean, I'm not even looking for it, and it's everywhere. Phone calls, in my email, text messages. I go to X trying to look up Peace Summit stuff, and it's all, I mean, you just see everybody jumping on, piling on to get Nick Fuentes, and, you know, a lot of that is just, again, the dogpiling thing, you know, kind of a mass formation, mob psychology, and then I sit back and I go, if they're jealous or don't like you or
Milo, in my opinion, he lost touch. He doesn't have the fame he used to, and I believe he is talking this smack about Nick Fuentes because he's riding the coattails, and that's what I believe. If you guys think something else, leave a comment.
So that's just my gestalt.
I gotta go flip my steak. I'll be right back.
Stream of consciousness rant. Nick J. Fuentes on Rumble. Find you on X as well. Thank you for being here. You got the floor.
Yes, well, thank you for having me. It has been certainly a strange couple of weeks with everything that's gone on. And, you know, I've seen people characterize it on Twitter, the sort of feud that's been going on with Candace, with Tucker, with Elon, with all these different figures. And I don't know that you would characterize it this way, but I've seen other people say this. They say it's infighting. And I don't really like that term because I don't think it does justice to what actually took place, which is that you and I were both really on top of this back in June. There was a war in Iran. It really all goes back to this, at least for me. And I think, you know, you asked me to kind of take the 20,000-foot view, the 30,000-foot view. To me, the 30,000-foot view has so much to do with the populist movement, with Trump, and with the situation in Iran as it has unfolded over the past few years. So going back to June, you and I were on this. I was doing these big streams covering the war. I did your show. You were doing huge streams covering the war in Iran. It was blowing up. I do this show with Candace Owens, who I've had a little drama with her in the past. I've also helped her in the past. So we've had kind of a relationship which has been characterized by sometimes friendliness, but sometimes negativity. And without relitigating the entire drama, we do a interview in the middle of the war, and we don't talk about the war at all. We don't talk about Trump. We don't talk about
and that's what I was saying.
Our cancellation, the Daily Wire, any of these things. She's pressing me about drama, things like this. Now, some people thought it was an interesting interview. A lot of people are disappointed in what we talked about, or maybe what we did not talk about. Needless to say, there was this big reaction to how she handled it, and that it was behind a paywall, all these things. Then she goes on Tucker, and Tucker Carlson calls me a Fed. I do this big reaction stream to that. Clearly, that accusation backfires. Now, I don't know Tucker. I've never met him. I've never talked to him. But he seems to, without watching my show or knowing me, he seems to think that he knows exactly what I'm about and made a very serious accusation. Not only did he say that I'm an asset of the left or of the federal government, he says, but I'm this weird gay kid in my basement from Chicago, and who is this guy and all this stuff. This backfires. And then a week later, I get Elon Musk replying to Milo, accusing me of being a Fed. And you take this whole thing together, and I wouldn't characterize that as infighting. I would say what that looks like to me is a coordinated attack. I think it stinks. I think it reeks of coordination because it's the same types of accusations coming from people that are all connected to each other. Right. Elon replied to Milo. Milo did a show with Candace the week before. Candace did the show with Tucker the week before that. And Candace and Tucker did a show right around the time that she quit Daily Wire. So it's like all these people know each other. They're all connected and clearly talking in the same, 2 to 3 week period. They're all saying the same things. And so it stinks to me like this is kind of like an avalanche. It's almost like a backlash against my popularity. And for me, the big question is this. I think everybody's assumption based on what has taken place in the past year and a half ever since the war in Gaza, obviously there's this mass awakening about Israel and the influence of Israel and how that is detrimental to the United States. that we're being drawn into this conflict. We're backing a genocide. It's $30 billion in aid. It's World War III, all these things. And these figures like Candace and Tucker in particular, they rise to the surface and are elevated, whereas Tucker was at Fox News and Candace was at Daily Wire. Suddenly, they are these major critics of Israel. They're major critics of what's going on. Now, to the layperson, you would say, they're kind of meeting me where I was. I've been on this, as you know, for 10 years. I was known as the anti-Semite. I was known as the anti-Israel guy. Now, the layperson would say Candace and Tucker are kind of coming around. They woke up. They got red-pilled. They're on the right side now. They're pushing the truth. And that's why there's this strangeness that it reeks of coordination. It reeks of this coordinated attack. And from the least likely people, you would think the attack would come from the usual suspects like a Ben Shapiro, a Charlie Kirk, who I have feuded with over the years, who are very pro-Israel, who are much closer to the establishment. That it would come from these relative outsiders that were jettisoned by Fox and Daily Wire in the past couple of years, that broke with that consensus view. For this coordinated attack to come from them is very suspicious. And I drew a lot of attention to that on my show, the suspicious nature of it, and said, maybe things are not as they seem. Now, as far as you're concerned, both Candace and Tucker. You had Candace on your show last week. I know you're good friends with Tucker. And, I saw what you said. I appreciated that you defended me from the accusation that I'm a Fed. But what I would say is this is sort of where I'm at psychologically. I don't know Tucker. I don't know Candace. I don't know her well. I've obviously met her and had my interactions with her recently. But I would say this: if they are good faith actors, if they're honest journalists, if they mean what they say and say what they mean, if they are who they say they are, maybe this is all just a big colossal misunderstanding. Maybe they legitimately have real concerns about me. Maybe it's not coordinated. And to that, I would say, why doesn't Tucker Carlson have me on his show? Better yet, why doesn't he talk to me on the phone privately? I don't need the clout at this point.
Well,
I mean,
the whole
feud blew up.
I'll shut up, but that's where I was going to go next. I can call Tucker and ask him, can you imagine if I hosted a debate even remotely and I'd be fair? That would be massive. Everybody wants that. I mean, I know Candace asked you for another debate, and usually, the person that loses, and I would say she did, wants, another one. But you and Tucker, that would be the new debate. You would accept that if I hosted a debate with you and Tucker?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you could call it a debate, a discussion, whatever you want to do. I would do a debate, absolutely, because, he made specific claims pertaining to Joe Kent. He said the reason that he's suspicious of me is because of my attacks on Joe Kent. And I've said this to you, and I've said it to Candace, and I've been saying it to anyone who will listen. In fairness, almost to the point of being a nuisance, I've told that story about Joe Kent for many years.
Even politicos, a lot of people don't really remember Joe Kent. Why don't you recap people that don't know then?
Sure. So Joe Kent ran for Congress in 2022, and he received some backing from Peter Thiel, and he had a mutual friend, Matt Braynard. Matt Braynard was his first hire on his campaign. He was a consultant. Braynard was at AFPAC. He was at my convention. And long story short, Joe Kent attacked me in 2022. I initially supported him. I talked to him on the phone. We were going to send the Groypers out to Washington to help him. And out of a clear blue sky in 2022, he launches this attack on me and says that he condemns me because of my opposition to Israel and because I talk about race and religion. He said that my message does not fit with inclusive populism, which is his vision. Now, in response to his attack, I mobilized the Groypers to Washington, and the Groypers that were going to help him then were hurting him. And I said, we will not reward betrayal. We will not reward people that claim to be America first, but are really Israel first. We're going to make an example out of him. Now, Joe Kent lost. It was a major upset. That was rated as a safe Republican district, and he lost by like 1,000 votes. And so credibly, you could say that I caused him to lose. But I caused him to lose to make an example out of someone that says...
Sorry, everybody. I had to go take care of my food. I hope you're enjoying this so far. This is just the first couple minutes, though, so...
Tucker promoted Joe Kent on his show. And I think that Tucker blamed me for the loss. This is his friend. And he said, oh, you made my friend lose. What motivation would you have to see this guy who purports to be America first? Why would you want to take him out? And so Tucker then worked with Max Blumenthal on a hit piece in the gray zone. And that's where all this "you're a federal agent" accusation originated, was from a hit piece in the gray zone in February 2023, just a couple of months after Joe Kent lost. And, so maybe that's just a misunderstanding, but I have said repeatedly, I did not come at Joe Kent randomly. I didn't pick on him because he was great. I was supporting him. Then he disavowed me because I criticize Israel. Like, it doesn't get more on the nose than that. And so I would either like the opportunity to tell Tucker that or to debate about that. But for him to say that, I'm like mobilized by the intelligence agencies or by the left to take out Joe Kent because he's a legit fighter for America first, that's just not true. And, it's on Twitter for everybody to see. You could still find those tweets. They're still up there. And I've been consistent on that story for 3 years now. So anyway, so that was the basis of his attack. And if I could sit down with him and really just squash the beef, and you know me, I mean, we've had debates and we've had interviews. I'm a big boy. If Tucker wants to give me the Ted Cruz treatment.
When you were here with Kanye, I called you baby Hitler, and I meant it as a joke. But other people would have, oh, how dare you? You just made it. But the point is, we've had some real debates.
Absolutely. And I'm not going to back down or shy away from the questions. And as far as Tucker's concerned, I, like you, want to see America succeed. I am not one of these people that is advocating for violence or for civil war or anything like that. I actually want Trump to succeed. I want America to succeed. I want the border to be closed. I want to avoid a conflict in the Middle East. Tucker has been working to prevent a war in Iran. So have I. I've been calling that, and so have you. I mean, so I look at the three of us as very aligned on certain things that are good for America, like being against the war. And that's why it's puzzling that for 3 years, or 2.5 years, Tucker's been working against me in this way, making these accusations. And here's the thing. Tucker has 17 million followers. He's got a massive show. If he is promulgating this idea that I'm a Fed in private and in public, that's very damaging for me. And so when I go on my show and say, why is he doing this? Is it because his dad is in the CIA? I'm defending myself. I'm being put in this position where very powerful, influential people with credibility in our movement, whether it's Candace or Tucker, and maybe they don't realize that. Maybe because I'm very popular and I have a fanatical following, maybe it's easy to forget. I'm being charitable here. I'm being nice. Candace has 7 million followers. Tucker has 17 million. I just got unbanned on Twitter last May. I'm not allowed on YouTube. And that's not to play the world's smallest violin for being censored, but it's to say I'm kind of the new kid on the block. I just emerged from being censored all this time. For them to be calling out this orbital strike on my reputation, saying I'm a Fed and making these accusations, and in private, I mean, I have many people I know saying, oh, I have a mutual friend that's insisting you're a Fed because Tucker said so. Like, that's a big problem for me. And so that kind of punching down, it's not really cool. And it's especially not cool when I don't even have the opportunity to defend myself. And I just don't get where all that tough guy stuff goes. He calls out Ray Epps, who he accuses of being a Fed, to go on his show. He calls out Ted Cruz, all these people, but then does a 15-minute drive-by shot on me based on factual inaccuracies, and I don't get the right of reply. I don't even get, an acknowledgement. It just stinks like bad faith at that point. So that's where I have to really fight back. So that's sort of where I am in the whole drama. I don't understand these people. I don't know them. All I have to go by is I know me. I know I'm legit. And if they're calling down these strikes on my reputation, I got to question, who are they? And when I look at them, if they're calling me a CIA agent, it's like, well, that's pretty rich, because we don't have to go in. I don't want to use your platform to attack your friends, but for them to use that attack, it's pretty rich, because Joe Kent, who is the subject of all of it, he's a CIA officer. So did Tucker not know his dad was in the CIA? He doesn't know Joe Kent is in the CIA, yet he knows for a fact that I am. How does that work? Joe Kent, his close friend, and his dad are both in the CIA. To his shock and surprise, but he doesn't know me and doesn't watch my show, but he's absolutely certain that I am intelligence. Now that's rich and very ironic and also very hard to believe. So, it is with a little bit of, I don't know, uncertainty, I guess, about their motivations. It's sort of hard to piece together the narrative, although I think I did a good job of it.
So I'm going to be able to continue, and I'm going to tell you why they think that. And I was there. I understand. I know what happened that day. People got hyped up. I know the inside baseball because I had one of the big J6 lawyers, Norm Pattis, who was for the Proud Boys and others, and the Oath Keepers. And I know that he was your lawyer as well. And people go, oh, they got the same lawyer. They were working for the secret group too. So I get the same stuff. No, there's only certain lawyers that have balls to actually go in and do this because they try to disbar them. They try to put them in jail. They put a bunch of Trump lawyers in jail, for heaven's sakes. But I knew behind the scenes they were saying he's on a no-fly list. They didn't seize his bank account. They're not subpoenaing him. They're not. I was getting subpoenaed too. You were the J6 committee. I know all that. So they don't do that to their operatives. You don't have Bill Barr with this new Veritas video where they got the text messages, the emails threatening the lady at the PR firm with Armstrong Williams reportedly, and Bill Barr, Trump's former attorney general, running around with Fani Willis in...
Oh, yeah, that's crazy. I don't know if you guys heard about Bill Barr trying to get Trump arrested while he's working as his DOJ or whatever, something like that. I was listening to it. He's explaining it now, but I just thought I'd stop real quick and just interject. Man, that's fucking nuts, yo. You hire a guy and he comes after you over bogus shit too. And that's right. That lady, the secretary or whatever she was, she says that Bill Barr was their go-to guy. He was the GOAT, basically. Like, he was that dude that they could go to and get anything they needed done and all this other crazy mess. It was insane.
And I know you've released the emails, the text messages, all of it. We go to the lips, and then Trump says march down there, and it's all, hey, people have gone to the Capitol. It's fun. We don't know what's going on in there. You're down the road. You hear what's on the internet. Okay, go in the Capitol. Okay, people got hyped up. People got excited. I saw a lot of other people that went in and did the same thing. You didn't go in. Now, you can still say, though, all right, he didn't get indicted. Well, you weren't even at the Capitol and you didn't go in. If you would have been there, I think you might have been. But the point is that they protected Ray Epps, who's running around for days saying go in, break in, do all of this. And so I think that piece of evidence
whatever happened with that Ray Epps guy,
doesn't make you a Fed. Then I know the inside baseball because I had the same lawyer, and you've now released all the documents and stuff that went on.
That's insane, honestly.
Fake. And I've had to use lawyers to get undebanked and had to move banks. You have to file lawsuits. And then people say, oh, no, that's how they got control of him and all the rest of it. So I've been through this so much internally myself that I know the lay of the land because I was there, and then I experienced it, and then I followed the case, and then I had the same lawyer. And so that's the reality of all of this. But this is the clip that has Tucker concerns. I want to play it so you can respond. Here it is.
Keep moving towards the Capitol. It appears we are taking the Capitol.
This is Ray Epps. How come he wasn't locked up? It appears we're taking the Capitol back. How the hell was that dude not locked up? Seriously. Because he was a Fed. He was the Fed. And these guys, probably a bunch of these guys right in here, are all Feds. Who knows? It's just my opinion. I don't know for sure. Face covered, probably a Fed. Okay, well, there's Nick Fuentes right there. Yeah. So maybe not. Maybe these guys are groypers, but nonetheless. Oh, it's this America First. Okay, that's Nick. Yeah, I don't trust that one bit. I know Nick didn't go down there. He just stood here.
And that's exactly how it should be. These politicians don't represent us. They betray us. And now we are forcibly evicting them from the people's house. They should live in fear of the American
So you have to remember the climate at the time. Democrats were taking over capitals all the time, having protests, sit-ins. They've done it recently in Michigan and Georgia, and it's not called a terror attack. And I've seen your description of what you were saying, and I understand it from the time that we're all angry. They've stolen the election. That's confirmed. You're called there. You go there. I saw you a few days ago in a clip. Describe this if you could repeat people that information, because I believe it. I buy it.
Yeah. So as you know, the January 6th protest, this is something that I almost wasn't even going to attend, because at January 6th, it was basically over. The whole plan for Stop the Steal, there were all these different deadlines, and the goal was to get the state representatives in the state capitals to take back the power to appoint the electors that would go and make the decision. So there were all kinds of deadlines about certifying the election, picking the slate of electors, all these things. By January 6th, we knew it was over. We knew that probably Mike Pence was not going to do this option where he would not read some of the votes. Was one of the that's why Trump had a big problem with him, because the play was that he would decline to read the votes from the states where the result was contested. We knew that wasn't going to happen. Now, for that reason, I said, I don't even know if I'm going to go on January 6th to the speech on the ellipse, because that was the event. For those that were in the know, January 6th was supposed to just be Trump for the first time was working with Women for America First, Stop the Steal, all the big organizations that organized the protests. For the first time, the White House was collaborating with them to do a big thing.
And by the way, I can verify all that because I started the event a month before for the date down the road, a smaller area. The White House calls, they said, hey, we want you to run it, because people that don't know, they can't use federal funds for that. They wanted me to work with donors and move to the ellipse and raise like $5 million. I said, I'm not doing that. I handed it off to the Republicans. I said, I'm not involved. I've raised $350,000 from listeners. I gave them the money, didn't keep a cent of it. That raised from listeners. And because I didn't want to manage something like this. I can't manage a dinner party, much less that. We weren't going to have Trump at our event. We were just going to have a rally, as we'd had many before, the months before. One of them had 500,000 people there. So absolutely, I can vouch because I was there for all of this, and I can also vouch that I said this the first day. I don't think Trump was involved, and I'm not interrupting, I just want you to integrate this in. They wait. There's like 1 million people there. Only 30,000 can get in the cordoned off area at the ellipse. They're all over the Washington Monument, everywhere, red hats everywhere. I'm sitting there in the front row. It's freezing. You were in there too.
I wonder why they're bringing this up, though. Oh, because they were accusing Nick of being a
Trump goes, march peacefully to the Capitol. The Secret Service opens the gate in front of me. I go into the backstage. They take me through, and they open me out on Pennsylvania Avenue and go lead it. I go lead it. Hundreds of thousands had already marched. By the time I get there, it's total bedlam. The internet doesn't work. The phones don't work. Everything's jammed out. There's so many people, and I had no idea what was going on. But then I had these special operation guys, former Delta Force guys and people. They're like, it's obviously staged. You know, we got Antifa up there because they'd already gotten there right when it was starting. They said, they ran down to meet us. They go, because the phones wouldn't work. They go, you got to get down there and tell them not to go in. This is a setup. So I run, as fast as I can with no Achilles down there, get hit with tear gas, trying to stop people going in. So sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to give the backstory of that. And clearly I then felt, not by Trump, but insiders knew there was a setup working inside the administration. Bill Barr, we now know, who was on the ground and caught organizing it with the Democrats, that we were all set up and we were all told to come there. You, the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, all of us to be set up. I think that's a 2 + 2 = 4. Sorry, Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, and so my experience on that day is that I showed up in a suit and tie. I didn't come in like commando gear because we really thought we're going to this speech. And then that was it. That was the speech, and Trump was going to talk, and then we were all going to go home. I think we even had an interview planned with you. I think I was planning to talk to you.
Yeah, doing a show. We had rented the media roof across from the Capitol, which anybody can pay $5,000 and get, by the way, for the day. And so I'm above the Capitol, and I was doing all these interviews. And then the left said, indict Jones. He was perched on a building to run the attack. No, I'd rented that place 3 or 4 times before. I was right by CNN and ABC News, but absolutely. We had an interview that night booked.
Right. And so point being is, like, I didn't have any plans to even be at the Capitol building. I was going to go to the ellipse, watch the speech. I had a VIP pass. I was literally right behind you. And what changed is that, as you said, and everyone can confirm this who was there, Trump said in the speech, we are going to go and peacefully make our voices heard outside the Capitol. And there was like a rumbling that you and Trump were going to lead the march, and you left early. And I said, oh, that's the program. I guess we're all going to the Capitol. And you're right. The phones weren't working. Anyone who's been to a baseball game or a concert knows how that goes. When you're in a high density area, the cell doesn't work. So we said, okay, I guess we're just going to the Capitol. So we walked to the Capitol. By the time I got there, the barricades surrounding the Capitol complex on the lawn had already been taken down. At that point, which had happened earlier in the day, the protesters had already gotten onto the lawn and were on the steps of the building. So I arrive at the Capitol, and I'm there with like a group of a half dozen people, fans of mine. We're taking pictures. We're hanging out. I don't think we ever got closer than 300 feet from the Capitol. We were on the lawn. And somebody came up to me and said, oh, you got to give a speech. You got to give a speech, because this was the program. You and I had done this at all the state capitals. I was in Lansing, Atlanta, Harrisburg, Phoenix, D.C., and we gave speeches with megaphones at the governor's mansion, at the state capitol.
You climb up on the highest statue or object, and you speak to the crowd.
Right. We did it in D.C. We did it at Million MAGA. There's pictures, videos. So somebody said, oh, this is an historic day. You got to give a speech. I said, well, find me a megaphone. So some orbiter, some fan of mine zips off, grabs a megaphone, brings it back. We look for the highest place. And that statue that you see me on there, that was Peace Circle. You could look at a map of the Capitol complex. It's 500 feet from the building. So, and I think that's a big part of the missing context is people look at that video, they see the speech, and they imagine maybe I'm like guiding people into the building. I was 500 feet away from the building. And so when I'm saying, take down the barricades, there were barricades on the lawn, which people were already on top of. There were barricades on the lawn in front of the Peace Circle, which that is what I was referring to. And I was saying, because the idea was, this is what the chatter on the ground was, we were going to protest on the lawn until they came back in session and gave Trump the election. The idea was this was like a protest. So when I said, we're going to hold the Capitol, it was like, we're not going to leave until...
Yeah, I said the same thing the weeks up to it. I said, we're going to peacefully, I think we even had a website, peacefully occupy the lawn until they actually have an investigation in Congress into the election fraud.
Exactly. And this is how this stuff goes. People don't realize when you're in the heat of the moment and there's no plan like that, there's just like this chatter that goes on the ground, and you get these ideas and, it's like a mob thing. And so you're there and we're saying to ourselves, okay, we're here on the Capitol complex. Mike Pence did not do what Trump wanted him to do. They shut down the session where they were counting the electoral votes. And we said, yeah, like we're not going to leave until they, choose Trump in the election. That's the basis of the speech on Peace Circle. But then we start to get word that the cops are coming in heavy. We get word that special forces are coming in. They're throwing tear gas down on the lawn. So me and the whole group I was with, we said, let's get out of here. And so people like to say, oh, you sent people into the Capitol, but nothing happened to you. Every single person that was with me in that video did not get charged. That whole group of people, and by the way, we weren't on restricted grounds. The only people that got charged were people that were in the building.
But Nick, they did try to charge you. That was, and I had the same lawyer, so I mean, and you've released the documents. They did subpoena you. They did come after you. They did call you before the Jan 6 committee. We have Bill Barr, and we should get to, and I don't want to spend the whole night on that because we've got a lot more to hit, but I actually have the clips of the whistleblower with the documents, Nick's name, my name, General Flynn, how they want to take us down for Jan 6, and then 2 years later, 2023, because you were still seen as a supporter of Trump then. And I already showed this Friday and already showed this Monday, but this is all right here. Project Veritas Part 2, whistleblower Bill Barr held secret meetings to plot prosecutions of Trump and block his political comeback. But the bigger story is, and what they thought was his biggest supporters, and Nick is on that. You don't get on the Bill Barr hit list if you're Ray Epps. Notice Ray Epps was not on the list.
Right. Well, and not only that, as you said, I got my
Notice
bank account
Ray
frozen. I
Epps
got put on the no-fly list.
list.
It's in the New York Times that they were considering hitting me with charges. I got subpoenaed in 22. And I mean, maybe the coup de grace is that I testified under oath that I never interviewed with law enforcement, which I did not. I never talked to the FBI. FBI never came to me, never talked to any law enforcement or intel agency. And I mean, look.
This lady right here, she was talking about how Bill Barr was trying to set up Donald Trump. Right here. It's crazy, yo.
Go hold on the account. I sent it to my lawyers immediately. My lawyers called the U.S. attorney, and then they said, you're under investigation because of this Bitcoin transaction, which I discussed on my show on Monday, and your placement on the Capitol complex. Now, when I got subpoenaed a year later, after the money had been frozen and unfrozen, after I got put on the no-fly list and taken off, I testified under oath I never had any contact with federal law enforcement in that way. And as you said, I mean, Ray Epps, for all that people say about him, he got charged also. So it's like people say, well, you know, nothing happened to you. Well, things did happen to me. Well, then they say you didn't get charged. Okay, but people did get charged and then informed. Brandon Straka got charged and informed. Ray Epps allegedly was an informant. He got charged too. So you have to take it on a case-by-case basis. And in my situation, they were interested in me because I was a stop the steal person. I think they investigated because they thought I was in the building because of a case of mistaken identity. They investigated because of this Bitcoin transaction, which was unusual. And I think they came to the conclusion I wasn't in the building. The Bitcoin transaction was, although it looked suspicious, it was benign. And then I think ultimately they dropped it. And
well, we also had like MSNBC and CNN running images of you and I and others in different state capitals like Georgia, where we were invited and were peaceful and occupied peacefully. And they show us walking up the stairs, and they would show and go, look, there they are in the U.S. Capitol on J6. So incredible levels of disinformation.
Absolutely. And in my case, a former friend of mine, Baked Alaska, he was live streaming inside the building. There was a screen grab from the stream of some other guy standing behind him. And there were posts that went viral saying that that was me. We were wearing completely different outfits. I was wearing a suit and tie and a long coat. This guy was wearing a scarf and a hat and a jacket. But people were saying in tweets that got millions and millions of views, that's Nick Fuentes in the Capitol in Nancy Pelosi's office. And I literally went to Mark Randazza. I have the contract of a famous defamation lawyer. I think I paid him $10,000 to investigate if I could pursue a defamation case against a couple of left-wing journalists, against a couple of media outlets that made that claim, because I'm sure that ran up the flagpole to the DOJ and they said, oh, that's the picture. Then that guy got arrested. Like, that guy was identified and arrested later. It was a case of mistaken identity.
I understand. That's why I can clear you. I mean, look, I'm not God, but 99%, I believe you. I was there. I know you're a lawyer. I know the inside baseball. I know what you went through. It was all real. I get it. People say, oh, they're attacking Jones. It's part of the cover. It's fake. No, it isn't fake. It's real. So we just spent 40 minutes on this. It was very important. I really want to get into the issues we kind of agree on and disagree on in the time we've got. So just let me budget out time. Nick, how long? Are you good for another hour?
Absolutely.
Okay,
yeah, let's do another hour.
Okay, but I'm going to give you the floor right now on the bigger issue. Just as a media analyst, smart futurist guy, very good at predicting things. You predicted Trump would really have big trouble with Israel trying to control his administration. I don't think they're totally controlled. They're certainly trying, so we've got to deal with it. I want to get into Iran, how they're trying to get back in there. You're, from what I've seen, saying Trump does want a police state. I disagree, at least so far. I want to get into all that with you, but what is it people want to know personally, what it's like for you to have everybody pile onto you, which I would have told these people, actually did, some of them. I said, if you think somebody's bad, you understand doing this to make them bigger. And so, I mean, this is exploded, and it's only getting bigger now. And I'm one of the few people that's experienced what you've gone through multiple times, like many times. But I wouldn't even say. Well, I've had deplatforming and big blowups that have been as big as this. Okay, there's not many people other than like a Trump or even a Tucker getting fired at Fox that have had a blow up this big. So. Clearly, I don't think you started this blow up, and I can see both sides of the beefs and everything, but just what is it like for you now? And then just saying you're not Nick Fuentes, but you still have your brain. What do you think is going to come out of this? I think it's the right move, a smart move, a good move. to say, hey, just debate me or have a friendly discussion. And I think it needs to happen. And I'm talking about Tucker specifically. And, you know, Elon is a regular listener. We've had some big, long discussions on air. I think you should talk to Elon. I think Elon should talk to you. He hasn't done these spaces in a while. They get hundreds of millions of views. I don't know why he does it, or listeners. One with Trump got over 1 billion. I think people want open discussion. We know they want it. And populism and freedom is the hottest thing. Why not take it to the next level? And of course, I'm not somebody that courts raw controversy for no reason. I don't go around and they call it infighting, but, you know, insert myself in these things. I try to be the peacemaker. People I think are overall doing good work, even though they disagree on some things. But and I know they know this, the people that have attacked you, they've been hurt by it. You've been helped by it. And they're doing good work. I would like them, like when Trump 40 days ago came out and said, there's no Epstein, shut up. I said, I've never seen any evidence you really involved in anything bad. Why are you doing this? You need to stop it. It really hurt him in the polls. So that's my philosophy, is targeting the globalists and focusing on them. If Republicans or populists do something bad, I will report it. But the Democrats are so much worse. I spend 90% of my time on them. Trump does this stuff, shove about Epstein. He killed himself. He didn't do anything wrong. He wasn't human trafficking. He had no accomplices. There was no blackmail. I'm like, do you understand this is the biggest Streisand effect ever? Day one. I got huge backlash from the, you know, kind of Israel lobby that says, we're MAGA, you're a panicker. The same groups that attacked me when I was, you know, against going to full war with Iran. So I could see it was synthetic coordinated attack. And then I pulled back from that. And the day one, I said, Trump's behind this ordered cover-up. And then 2 days later, it's like, yeah, I'm the one. Shut up. It doesn't exist. Well, I mean, of course I knew that. Then I made calls that confirmed it. Then I made calls to talk to folks that were in long meetings with him. Then I learned a lot of stuff I'm not even allowed to say. I halfway leaked it. You know, they stuck his wife in there and other lies, pissed him off. They knew what they were doing. And you can give your own opinion of where you think this is going. It subsided some. If you'll just stop saying, don't talk about it, you know, it'll probably go away. But I'd like to get to the bottom of it. So that's kind of again, stream of consciousness on that. So take some time here. I'm trying not to interrupt. And what is it like personally for you? And then where do you see this going? And then do you agree with me that the fact that so many people across the political spectrum in the world are really galvanized around you and supporting you, that is not just because you're smart and well-spoken, all the rest of it, because people piled on you, which is so obvious, and people want the underdog. They can see it. I've experienced it myself. But this is also a bigger symbol of the total collapse of faith in the system. But people that still try to blame both sides and act like they're anti-establishment, but then still kind of go after whoever they see on the leading edge of intellectual resistance, that's just not smart to turn the country and the world around. And we want to overcome all this bullying culture and intimidation and just break it. And you're doing that, and I'm trying to do that. And so it just doesn't seem wise. But it is a big, complex amalgamation, so I can see how people see you as an easy target, but not in this climate. I mean, I mean, obviously, I agree with a lot of what you say. I think you're smart. I've liked you. I've known you for 8 years. And you're a popular guest on my show, and I'm all about good thought and discussion and debate and, you know, what the listeners like. I'll give my ideas, you give yours. But, I mean, I could see years ago, and I told the crew, I said, Nick Floyd is going to get bigger and bigger. And I said, and I've tried behind the scenes to influence you some, saying, hey, you might want to press the gas so much they're going to kill you. But that's not because they're telling me to do that. I'm getting money to do it. I'm like, you know, fly too close to the sun here. But it doesn't matter. That's where we are anyways. And so it's kind of damn the maneuvers, go straight at them. So that's my rant. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of how it feels, it's a little bit frustrating because I feel like for as long as I've been doing my show, for as long as I've been doing this, and as much as people talk about my motivations or who I really work for, you know, this kind of stuff, all I've ever really wanted is for people to listen to my ideas. It's just to listen. And what I think really resonated with people when I clapped back on Tucker, it wasn't even so much, I spent 3 hours talking about the CIA and all this stuff. The part that resonated was the very end of the show, where I addressed the personal attacks. Because in addition to him insinuating that I work for intelligence or something like that, he said I'm a weird gay kid in a basement from Chicago. I'm a child. And in the clip that went viral on TikTok and Twitter, I said, did you forget when you did that part of your show that you're always pandering to the young white men? Isn't that kind of like the lead? Isn't that like the story of the past 10 years? Is the young white men who have no meaning in their lives, who are struggling to get married, who can't afford a home, who don't feel any allegiance to the country. They don't feel like they're a part of the country. There's no society. There's no social fabric. It's like, did you forget that, those are the people that you purport to care about, that you're trying to win over? You're defending their interests. And in the clip, I said, I am that guy. Like, I'm of that demographic. I'm 26 years old. I was born in 98. I'm Generation Z. I said, and like the Turning Point students, the chapter leaders, like all these people, I went to a selective school. I dropped out. I come from a working class family. College was very expensive. I got canceled because I supported Trump in the 2016 election. He woke me up. Like, I went through all these things that they're always talking about. I'm facing these challenges they're always talking about. Anything that you want to say, incel, racist, Trump supporter, like, I represent all those different kind of facets of the, disaffected young white male. I lived it. I am it. And so for Tucker to kind of have that tone, and for people like Candace and Elon to just hit me now with like a new attack. For 10 years, it was, you're a racist, you're a Nazi, you're this. Now for it to be like, oh, you're a Fed, you're a basement dweller, you're this. It's like, I, as a representative of this generation, am just saying the same thing we all are, which is, listen to us. Instead of trying to put us in a box and speak for us and say, we're going to do a show about Klarna, we're going to do a show about the affordability crisis for homeowners, why don't you listen to the source? And, with all these different things, he's making accusations about Joe Kent. I have a very solid response to that, but they won't listen. Tucker says I'm this hateful, crazy extremist. Why do you attack these people? I have explanations for this stuff. I do a show about it for 10 years. And you would think, clearly what I have done, this movement that I've created, it has become a phenomenon. I think that's inarguable. Whether you love it, hate it, whatever you think about it, it is widely talked about. It's become a phenomenon. You would think that people would look at this, and rather than dismiss it or hand wave it away, they might try to understand it. If there's a charismatic guy in the middle of it who is, kind of beating the odds against the censorship and all this, created this diehard following, this cult-like following, you would say, what's the appeal? What's the basis?
And people coming to your house to kill you. We covered it, and almost no one else. When he got killed by the cops after trying to kill them, he comes with a gun. I'm here to kill you at your house while you're on air. And then almost no one even defended you. I thought that was really chicken shit.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. You were one of the only people that covered it. So God bless you for that.
Well, why not? They're coming after me too. I'll expect you to, I've told you on the phone, hey, I expect you to defend me too, buddy.
Yeah, you said bail me out of jail, and that you got to bail me out, right? So it's goes both ways. But yeah, so I mean, I'm the subject of all this controversy and all these different things. And you would think that they would just take a good faith interest and just sort of like a journalist, just kind of jump into the middle of it and say, what is this all about? Why do these young people gravitate towards him? And for 10 years, they just don't get it. They're just not listening. Even Charlie Kirk, who isn't really a part of the latest drama, but Charlie Kirk, he got a caller that called into his radio show, and it was a mother. And the mother said, my 2 young kids, they're really anti-Semitic. I think they're following some online personality. She's obviously talking about me. And Charlie Kirk says, oh, that they're going down a dark path. You need to tell them that blaming Israel for your problems is victim culture. And I listen to that, and it's like, wow, it's been 10 years and you still don't get it. Like, you still don't get why people like me. You still don't get why people are angry. You still don't get it because you're not listening. You're not taking it seriously. And you almost wonder, when will they take it seriously? I think they're taking it seriously now, because I would bet you 2 bits that when Tucker and Candace did that show and made this dishonorable drive-by gossipy attack, I'm sure they talked about it beforehand. Do you want to cover this? Yeah. How are we going to treat it? I'm sure when they did this little drive-by attack, they thought that they were going to get away with that. They were going to do this little snipe on me. They're going to make me look like a jerk. They're going to humiliate me, and people are going to pile on to me. I would bet you 2 bits they had no idea the kind of backlash they would get from that clip. And you wonder, are you taking it seriously now? Now that you see the ferocious reply, not just from me, but on TikTok and from my supporters, are you going to take it seriously now? And are you going to listen to what we're saying? Because I don't even want to be praised. I don't want adulation. I don't want the glory. I just want people to listen to the arguments. And that's really it. For as much as people like to talk about my sexuality, people like to talk about my home situation. Do I live with my parents? People talk about all this stuff. It's like I want to talk about the war in Iran, as you know, because we covered this together. It's like I'm intensely interested.
Right. And I want to take a break and come back and get into the meat and potatoes now and where we agree, where we disagree. But they're mad. I'm not talking about Candace and Tucker and all them, because they're trying to stop the war too, and in Ukraine. But the system is definitely mad, and we did get hit by the Israeli bots, you and I and everybody else, who were just covering it and saying this is crazy. And then that is what's weird. Then after all of that, which boosted what you're doing, boosted what I'm doing, but I just, like you, just cover whatever's interesting and I think the truth, that you are just a bellwether of the overall mind of the public. And that's where I'm always at, is where is the public? And I don't then go where the public is, unless where the public is where I'm already going, which I pretty much got them there in many cases. And so I see someone avant-garde who is having success, and I see all the anti-white, anti-Christian racism that's so intense, and who's running it, the ADL. I'm not a guy that just hates Jews in general, and the person that is a victim and blames them for everything, because there's different groups, different things going on, different power blocks. But when you have the ADL trying to pass federal laws to arrest people that criticize even Zionists, I mean, I played the clips last week. I mean, this is tyranny. When you've got them already, their counterparts passing those laws, but B'nai B'rith and all them in Europe, this is the model. And so the left, with all its tyranny and its love of Islam and all its censorship, is bad and has been terrible and done more censorship. But now Trump claims he's against censorship, but more and more is bringing in the ADL. I've got clips of it saying they're basically running this angle of censorship that's totally unconstitutional here in the United States. And you've got governors in Texas, everywhere, saying if your city has a resolution against genocide in Gaza, you will pull all state funds. And if you're a contractor with the state for school lunch program or building highways, doesn't matter, you've had a 20-year contract, we're canceling it. That is 1,000 times beyond McCarthy and even more intense than the left, and is beyond cancel culture. It is the social credit score, China, literally here. So that is a big, big problem. So I want to talk about that with you, where we agree on that, where you think Trump's going. Iran, they're trying to bring that back. And then I disagree overall. I don't want to mischaracterize it. I haven't had time the last day or so to watch the show, but I saw some of the tweets and statements, where you're like, I don't know. Before I thought it'd be good to have National Guard deport the illegals, but God, this could be for Israel to enforce on us. But then I understand constitutionally what he's doing. That's why these courts have been upholding ICE, upholding the Guard stuff. And I know why Trump's doing it, because the Democrats are planning to burn the country down. That's in Podesta's own plan. So while we're busy focusing on Trump and we're pure and we're making sure he does it all right, and I get it, I do it too, are we ignoring the Democrats that literally already tried to put you and I and everybody else in prison and tried to kill Trump? So I want to go to break. People can follow him on Rumble at Nick J. Fuentes. Also on X. You can follow me at Real Hog Shows on X, Infowars.com/show. We also have a stream on Rumble as well. And actually tune in, because I get up at 4:35 a.m., so I rarely, because it usually starts late. I do a lot of times once my younger daughter goes to bed. I'll sit there sometimes in bed and I'll go, oh, nice intros, nice promos, but I'm like, it's 10 o'clock, it's 10:30, and I get, that's how he does the show, and I'm like, all right, I'm out. And then I get up in the morning and get ready, and I'll have it on the background. But I catch a lot of the show. I catch the clips. I mean, I'm a listener, because he's got witty humor. A lot of it's snarky. I've been watching him for years, off and on. And I do the same dark humor. I've cut back because they misrepresent it. And he'll make some sick joke, and they go, I'm just joking. They cut that off, and then they can take 8 years of stuff and put a string of it together and misrepresent it. And that's what's going on now. And there's new attacks on Nick that I'm seeing that are even nastier, that I'm not going to go there. And I predicted to Nick a week ago. I said, I think that'll be the next attack. and that's where that's going. And so, if these people aren't being given talking points, and it's just a piling on, then Nick keeps saying, meet with me, talk to me, have me on. You'll get top ratings. What are you scared of? I mean, you'll get more views in a Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson debate than the Putin. I mean, I guarantee you, if they had that debate next week, let's say next Thursday here, or where I'd host it, or I guarantee you 100 million views on X, 100 million on YouTube, Rumble. I mean, it'll be why would people not want to give the public what they want? I mean, I'm salivating. Here's the deal. I'll get ratings if it aligns with the truth and it helps people. I don't do stuff, bite the heads off bats to get attention like Ozzy, though I like some of his music. My point is, I can do stunts all day and get ratings, but I want ratings tuning in to hardcore awakening information.
Right.
You understand? I don't want just ratings. I want ratings on truth. And this is the most obvious, currently the hottest debate would be Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes. So I've talked to Tucker here and there. He's really busy, so am I. But I'm going to call him tomorrow and just say, man, you got to do this. And if it's not here, wherever, I don't care. I'll be there. And I'd like to be on a panel, maybe a 4-hour panel discussion. Nick Fuentes, Alex Jones, Tucker Carlson. Give them what they want. My God. And this is where we need to go, not eating ourselves alive. I wouldn't even call it infighting. I would call it a fratricide. Because that's what that is, killing your own people, and so that's where it's at. And there's also some fear, out there that what if Nick is some deep operative or whatever because he's going after Trump, and then but look, Trump's doing it to himself, so you can't blame Nick or me because I know I'm good. I mean, I know I'm calling the shots when I'm freaking out over Trump blowing his feet off, and blame me for all the trouble Trump just got. That's bullshit. Trump's enemies are my enemies. They want to put me in prison. I need Trump to succeed. But I will not sell out my values or my integrity for it. And when I go after Trump, it's to get him back on the straight and narrow. I don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Nick's reached that point. We'll debate that because I disagree with him on that after the break. Right now, stay with us. I've been hearing about this for years, and now it's all the rage. And about a year ago, they did a survey of the customers at thealexsonstore.com and said, what is it you want the most? What product would you like to have? A lot of you got that email. And the number one thing...
Okay, so far it's been all right. It's more of Nick just kind of defending himself, really, from all the accusations. I'd like them to get into the debate part. Most everybody who watches Nick Fuentes, or at least knows who he is, everybody knows he's not a fed, or they debanked him, deplatformed him. He was kicked off YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all within like a week. He was debanked. I mean, my God, Candace Owens, I don't think she went through that, and I don't think Tucker Carlson did either. Sorry, guys. I've been up since 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, so I think we already know that. Let's get into the real stuff here. Let's talk about Trump. Let's talk about the economy. Let's talk about the world, Let's talk about, what's happening over in the Middle East. That's the juicy stuff. That's what I'm here for. I mean, we already know Nick Fuentes is not a fad, and he's legit, You may not like what he has to say, but he is legit, And he's not a liar. He's not somebody who's made stuff up for fame. Oh, sorry, guys. Oh, I gotta wake up a little bit here. Make it through this interview. Yeah, I would definitely like to see the Tucker Carlson Nick Fuentes debate, though. Yo, what up, Mysterion? I think that the interview he had with Candace was, excuse me, an ambush interview. I think she got him on per views, clicks. She put it behind a paywall, so it was definitely for money. I did get to watch it because somebody put it on YouTube. So the whole entire interview was just her attacking him, no facts to back up anything she said. It was very illegitimate, you know what I mean? Like he said, he called her ahead of time and even asked her, you know, what kind of interview is this going to be? Oh, sorry. I mean, what can you say? She pulled one over on him, and all it was a personal attack for almost 2 hours straight behind a paywall. She got his groypers to pay $3 or something like that, $2.99, $3 to watch him speak because she knew that he has a loyal following, and she has a loyal following, and that was all for money. She never brought up that's CGI. Anyways, she never brought up Israel. She never brought up Ukraine. She never talked about anything of substance. So if I was Nick Fuentes, I would never go on her show again. I would make her come on my show if she wanted to have a real serious conversation. And as for Tucker Carlson, I would have Alex Jones mediate it for sure. All right, they are back.
6
Okay, I gotta wait for the music.
time we're out. We're not in D.C. or New York or L.A. We are the outsiders trying to take the country back. And I overall think Nick is a good actor, a good person, a person that means well. And for 26, you know, he's force to be reckoned with. And I just want to, everybody out there fighting tyranny, stay alive, and moving the Overton window back to liberty and away from political correctness. But we do have something we really disagree with, at least from what I've seen, some of the things you said recently, though I haven't done a deep dive on it. And, well, tell us your view on Trump federalizing D.C., talking about Chicago, talking about New York, talking about L.A., National Guard, Rapid Reaction Force. What do you think Trump's doing? What's your concern?
Well, in principle, I agree with it. In principle, I love it. And I said this on my show last night because Chicago is a dump. New York is a dump. And it's worse. It's violent. It's filthy. It's chaotic and all the rest. And under normal circumstances, I would have loved this announcement from Trump that he's moving the police in to take over. But the announcement about D.C. and federalizing law enforcement there, it was accompanied by another announcement about a DOD memo where they say they're going to form this new, it's like a quick response task force made up of 600 National Guardsmen on a rotating basis that'll be stationed in Arizona and Alabama. Now, to be fair, this is something that they talked about doing 5 years ago. They talked about doing this in 2020. You got 300 National Guard in Arizona, 300 in Alabama, and that way they could rapidly deploy a federalized military force into a city in the event of civil unrest. I don't think it's a terrible idea by itself, honestly. And like I said, it's been around for 5 years. But in principle, my concern with this overall is that right now, we clearly have an occupied government. Like, that's just not in dispute. When you look at what Trump has done with these other departments, At Department of Education, they're breaking the backs of Columbia and Harvard and installing anti-Semitism monitors. At State Department, they're revoking citizenship for people that criticize Israel. At all these other departments and agencies, at FEMA, they're saying we're not going to do search and rescue for a hurricane if your municipality was involved in the BDS movement. And so it's like there's clearly like a pattern here, which is that they're finding ways to use these statutes and regulations and things to benefit a foreign country and this particular people. That is symptomatic of influence. So when they say they're going to deploy the National Guard to do a law enforcement role in Chicago, New York, do I think that means that necessarily they're going to come to New York and arrest everybody that criticized Israel? Not necessarily. At the same time, I can't cheerlead an expansion of the security state when, as such, that state is being used to support the interest of a foreign power. So when I look at it on an axis of like more government and less government, ideologically, I'm a statist. Like in a vacuum, I'm in favor of a bigger government. But when the government is occupied, I have to lean more towards a libertarian the libertarian side of that axis, the libertarian pole. And so that's where I have these mixed feelings about it. I wouldn't necessarily say it's the worst idea, but you do get a little nervous when you see the Palantir being deployed, when you see the National Guard coming out, all this stuff. And at the same time, you see every department is putting out a statement about anti-Semitism. It's like, okay, how long before this is going to be used against Nick Fuentes and Dan Bilzerian and Jake Shields and these types of people? That's always my concern. So I'm wondering, I mean, what do you have concerns about that? Or do you kind of get where I'm coming from? Because on some level, I think we're on the same page that in principle, this is a good thing. But maybe in practice, it might leave something to be desired.
Obviously, as George Washington said, fire, government is like fire, a dangerous servant, a fearful master. So clearly, I'm the guy making films, writing books from the Democrats and also Bush, father and junior, were literally trying to train the military and police for gun confiscation, martial law. That was confirmed. So we were really worried about that. But it was the military itself that would leak the information to us and say that was wrong. So these forces aren't being trained for political enforcement or gun confiscation or any of that. We're locking down the Capitol and putting up fences for 6 months, all the rest of it. It's for when the Democrats, under the Podesta plan, said if Trump would have won in 2020, they were going to have blue states secede, blue cities, create civil war. They produced a movie that came out last year, big budget, Civil War, showing a Trumpian figure with all the minority groups together with the military and a black sergeant, woman executing a Trumpian figure. That's their dream. They've been planning uprisings. They've been planning this, and now that Trump was able to win, they've re-implemented this plan. So I think, towards your point, but disagreeing with the actual motive, this isn't just for rounding up illegal aliens. This isn't just for basic riots. They know the Democrats are planning some really big stuff. And quite frankly, rapid reaction forces of 500, 600 people are nothing. All governments of any size have these for civil unrest or outside groups trying to trigger coups. And you see all these Democrat judges being overridden by appellate courts saying, oh, Trump's a tyrant. He's not allowed to deport people. It's right in the Constitution. So people said, oh, how do you know he's not a tyrant, a king? Well, I mean, I can read the Constitution. I've had lawyers on about it just to double check. And of course, that's all been overridden. You argue, and I think you're right, he could be doing a lot more, and it's anemic, but he was handed a emasculated, castrated enforcement system. So I see Drudge, that is literally run by the Democrats now, Trump building police state, watch and monitor citizens, widespread discontent among National Guard, Pentagon plans reaction force. I don't see it as that, but even if he uses it for a good reason, as a Band-Aid for all the crime and the Soros DAs and all the rest of it, then when somebody else comes in later, it's in place. And then to your point, I mean, I agree with like 30% of what you're, I mean, I see the concern, but for the way it's being deployed, I know why Trump's doing it. He asked for 10,000 National Guard for January 6th. He could have overridden the mayor, Bowser. He could have overridden Milley, who threatened to resign. He didn't because they were setting him up. So I don't see it from Trump that perspective. He's the guy letting nonviolent offenders out of prison and stuff, even more than Democrats. I see it as him trying to warm the military up and get the public ready for the globalists to try to trigger a civil war, which they say they will do. But one headline in Drudge is true in that they are watching the citizens. And I've not defended Palantir. I've explained Microsoft, Google, and of course, Amazon, when you look at government funding, have thousands of percent more money from the government currently than Palantir to surveil, to spy. 15 years ago, Alexa, listen to in your house. Bezos running the CIA servers along with Microsoft. Now, Palantir's coming in, as they said they would, to offer Trump a system to try to watch all of that and give him control, like one ring to rule them all. So I'm not defending Alex Karp. Very troubling, at EU summits. I helped target and surveil everybody across Europe and Germany and the UK and put them in jail for their right-wing speech. My biggest fear is a Christian nationalist throwing me out of a window. So he's definitely got his hard on for Christians. He's definitely got that classic ADL bent to him. But you see Teal over there backing Trump and other things, and I know his background, obviously, In-Q-Tel and Poindexter and all that you've covered lately. Everybody's, well, I'm not taking your thunder away. You've done a great job presenting it, but that's old news. I'm glad people are discovering it now, but that's all true. My issue is I just see them as a rival group trying to come in and get control, and the idea that they're going to put us under a police state, they're going to put us under a surveillance state, it's already there. I want to dismantle the whole thing. And then my focus is, let's focus on Karp part of the time. Let's also focus on Eric Schmidt of Alphabet. Let's focus on those guys too, so people get the wide-ranging view. But it is true that all of these systems they're bringing in can be turned on the people. And it is true that Palantir has this big enemy list. So why don't you speak to that?
I guess I would just say, in general, when you say the globalists are coming after Trump, I almost don't know who you're talking about anymore, because who attended Trump's inauguration? It was Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. It was all the big tech and little tech people. I saw a clip from CNN the other day, and a presenter on CNN said Trump is brilliant. He's a mastermind. And what were they talking about? His cover-up of the Epstein files. So it's like CNN and the New York Times, it's like room service journalism for Trump. In the middle of this giant scandal, he's walking on the roof and they're saying, Mr. President, why are you on the roof today? Like, who's even resisting Trump anymore? Silicon Valley and Wall Street are in bed with Trump. The Democrats have no resistance. The law enforcement, little tech, these up-and-comers like OpenAI, Palantir, Anduril, these guys are all behind Trump. So I just kind of look at the whole situation. I survey the whole landscape and I say, I just don't see the resistance. I don't see Trump anymore as a figure that is actually against the globalists. That's a big reason why I turned on him. He's supporting the war in Gaza. He's clearly unwilling to restrain Israel. He's in bed with little tech and big tech in Silicon Valley, and J.D. Vance is the nexus for that. He cut the corporate tax rate and won't deport the illegal laborers on behalf of Wall Street. He's trying to get Jerome Powell to cut the interest rates to charge up the economy. It's like, so I see him basically as part of the system. So when he's bringing these troops out there because of the Democrats, it's like, I think in reality, the National Guard's being deployed because there's going to be a second Iran war. And when there is, there's going to be protests. And I think that's the real reason they're being sent out there. No different than how they shut down Colombia, and now they have like an anti-riot security presence over there. They banned pro-Palestine protests on these Ivy League campuses. They're sort of employing the same thing in the major cities. So I guess me, as a former Trump supporter, I was there in 16. As you know, I was there in 20. I was up there right up until roughly 2022. I just don't see him as an opponent of the system. I see him as basically part and parcel of the system at this point.
Well, I think that's a valid concern, and I'm not totally disagreeing with you. But just because people go to his inauguration, just because Bill Gates acts friendly, but behind the scenes is fighting Trump, doesn't mean they're on board. These are a bunch of snakes. That said, there is a lot of capitulation to Trump because populism is rising all over the world. He's seen as a figurehead. He's having a lot of success. And so I do see that. But if we're going to take the government over, at some point these institutions will be taken over. I'm not endorsing all that's going on. I'm saying it's a paradox. But guys, go to Nick Fuentes' X. He doesn't do a lot of posting there, so it'll be easy to find. I saw the clip. I actually had it on the list today that I had to go to an emergency court hearing. But it's not all of CNN's doing it, but this particular host, you know, is a big Trump supporter, and most of what he shows is true. But he is sitting there going, "It's wonderful. Interest in Epstein has plunged. Trump is a genius. This is amazing." And again, the optics of that are, well, if you're not involved in it, why the hell is it good that interest is plunging? So, Nick, let's talk about Epstein, because this has been bizarre the last 40 days, and I actually don't see interest in it subsiding. I don't think it's peaking like it was a few weeks ago, but this is a smoldering fire. What do you think's happening here?
Well, I think that when Congress comes back, they're going to be calling more attention to it. It does seem to be the case that the public has largely moved on. And we talked a little bit about this. It's like any news story. You give it a couple weeks, and no matter what it is, people are going to talk about something else. And with the internet, these things move very quickly. But that clip, it's almost like from a movie. It's almost like a parody. You have, and look, the guy is Jewish. You have a Jewish presenter on CNN saying, all-time low, 89% drop in interest in the Jeffrey Epstein cover-up. Trump did it again. He's a genius. He covered up the Epstein files. And it's like, is this real? Is this like an AI creation? Is this a Gemini creation? The idea that, you know, you would show that to a Trump supporter 7 years ago, 8 years ago, it would almost be hard to believe that it's real, that that's a real clip. And you think about the way it was in 2016, it was like 9/11 every day. I mean, you remember, you were there, you had him on your show. You're like the veteran of 2016. In 2016, we were being punished every single day. They were apoplectic. It was like Trump getting elected was like the Holocaust. It was like they said the worst thing that happened to America since 9/11 or Pearl Harbor. And now it just feels like this cakewalk.
And that's the paradox is we've been through so much to support Trump. He's doing a lot of good. And you can say, well, this CNN guy, this is like bad satire. Like you said, when I saw it myself on another feed. I saw it on your feed a couple days ago. And I watched it like 3 times, and I'm like, this isn't even real. Does this guy even understand what he's saying? And this is supposedly a Trump supporter. He's a genius. Look at how his cover-up has worked. And I'm sitting there like I'm almost being involved in a conspiracy if I was a Trump supporter, which I am overall still, and I went, yeah, great, he's really done that, when he's the one that came out 40 days ago and said, shut up, you're not my supporter, I don't want your support. He didn't, he committed suicide and all this. It was so insulting. And then again, last week, he did it again, saying it's all a big hoax after he said, okay, release the information. I mean, this is just crazy. So what is Trump thinking? Here is one of the most bizarre clips ever from CNN a few days ago.
I would say that this is, from at least a political point of view, quickly turning into a dud of a story. What am I talking about here?
Which is wild.
Which is wild.
This has been for 3 weeks.
Exactly. Now. Take a look here. Google searches for Epstein down 89% versus just 3 weeks ago, falling through the floor. It is no longer the top term searched alongside Donald Trump's name. That's been trading off between Taros and Vladimir Putin, with obviously the meeting coming up later this week. But at this particular point, the American people's interest in this story, it's quickly becoming something of a nothing burger.
So out of sight, out of mind, maybe, is applying here a little bit. But has it impacted, have you seen numbers that has impacted Trump's popularity, favorability, anything?
No, not really. I mean, take a look here. Let's take a look at the overall numbers. Trump's approval rating in July of 2025, it was 45%. It's still well within that margin of error here at 44%. And you compare that to where he was in his first term at this point, he was at 37%. So he's 7 points higher, very much in a different political universe now, significantly higher in terms of his overall approval rating than he was at this point in his first term. And more than that, among Republicans, his approval rating is near a record high, hovering right at about that 90% mark. So no, he hasn't lost any of that base. And when it comes to that center of the electorate, he's basically holding on there. And his overall approval rating, 44%, is pretty gosh darn good for him considering where he was at this point in term number 1.
What do you think is behind it? Why there hasn't been more movement?
Yeah, why hasn't there been more movement? I think this is pretty simple. Take a look here. Nation's top issue is the Epstein case. This is the number of respondents. This isn't the percentage of respondents. This is the number of respondents. In our last CNN poll, look at this. 0 respondents said that the Epstein case was the top issue. How about among independents? 0 independents said that. And among Republicans, and therefore overall, just a single one. So yes, there used to be a lot of interest in this story, but the bottom line is that even amongst those who had high interest in this story, it wasn't something that they thought was all that important. And as I said at the beginning, the interest in this story has fallen off the table.
Which also, when you look at this and you compare it to just the attention that Capitol Hill was giving it, Donald Trump supporters were giving it, congressional committees were giving it, it is incongruous.
I would just say this. Donald Trump has some of the best political instincts of any politician I've seen. And on this particular issue, you see it full well and clear because he has been saying, you know what, this is not an issue. And it turns out that a lot of the American public actually seem to agree with him.
If you dream
Wow,
it,
so Bill Clinton and Bill Gates, the head of Harvard, and all them in with those kids and the prince over in the UK.
Crazy.
This is great instincts. Let's just totally do a 180 and just shove about it. Then you ask what's coming next. And so I've seen you be critical of Elon, though he's done a great job on X with free speech overall. But I talked to people that were in the meetings. That was a real split. And he came out before all this happened 4 months ago, and said this Epstein thing's going to be a big deal. It's going to be covered up. And then I was told by people in the White House, yeah, it's because the CIA and Mossad are involved. They asked Trump to national security. But then why would he come out and Streisand affect all of this, Nick? Because this is wishful thinking. Anything big peaks and then subsides and then comes back as an even bigger wave. And it's not a prediction. It's a guarantee. The Republicans have already said.
Sorry to pause it, guys. No. I think the people didn't care about the Epstein shit. I think pundits do. I think they do. You know, and dare I say for the views or for what it might bring, if they can, you know, talk about it for the next week or two. I think Trump looked at it like this. What comes out of it? Trump releases the Epstein files, right? Okay, Democrats had their hands on it for 4 solid years. Anybody who's anybody in that list, or if the list even existed, which it probably did, a black book, not a list necessarily, but a little black book with everybody's names, right? Probably what number they were on what tape, or whatever. Those tapes are gone. That little black book is gone. Comey was a deep state shill. We know that. He's the one that ran it all. And the guy that came after him was a deep state shill as well. There is nothing there. The reason why it's a nothing burger is all evidence, 100% guaranteed, was destroyed. It's gone. And the only people that care about it are people who want to get clicks and views. And people who want something to talk about. Oh, it's the biggest scandal ever. You're not going to get anything, though. Just sit back and look at it. If the most powerful men and women in the world are on that list, how hard is it for them to call any member of Congress that they already control and say, you destroy that, or I'll destroy you? Guaranteed. That list was gone through and destroyed. 100%. It is gone. There's nothing there. Sure, what's on there now? Some low-level people that you ain't never heard of, or maybe a couple that you have. There's nothing. There's nothing to it anymore. That list has been gone through. Those videos have been gone through. Come on. It's corrupt. To think Comey didn't get a phone call in the middle of the night saying, hey, you destroy that list, or maybe you, remember JFK? People can die, you know. It's not hard for him. Or, hey, you're one of us. Did you get rid of that list? Yeah, boss. It's gone. Okay. Have a good night. Why do you think he was so willing to retire and be fired? He didn't even fight it. He left willingly. Like, job well done. He's a multi-millionaire from being the FBI director. How do you think he got millions? Come on, guys. Just use your head. That list don't exist no more. It's been gone for a long time. I went on a Spaces. There's this guy who's obsessed with it. I went on the Spaces and I said to him, and he kicked me off the Spaces because I told him he was mentally deranged and obsessed over it so much. I said, that list is destroyed. It's gone. What do you think you're going to get out of that list? There isn't a list. It doesn't even exist anymore. The Democrats, let's not even say the Democrats, the deep state, the New World Order, or whatever you want to call them. Comey's one of them. He's the head of the FBI. He conducted the raid. He got rid of it. He got rid of it. He destroyed all evidence that would get anybody convicted. Yes, there's probably some like child porn on there, low-level people that it doesn't even matter. You think that Bill Clinton's on that list still? Yeah, he's on the airplane list flying. That doesn't prove nothing. Yeah, he took a couple trips to Epstein Island without the videotapes and without the evidence. That's just an island of rich people. That's all it is. Billionaires, multi-billionaires, trillionaires were on that list probably. Bill Gates was on that list. Come on, man. The man has like $400 billion. How hard do you think it is for men like that to get in touch with Comey and say, hey, that list has to go? That's all I got to say on that. Straight up, that list is gone. It doesn't exist anymore.
Terms, Iran rearming themselves, the breakout timeline for a nuclear bomb is like, how do you get America into a war quickly? And it happens coincidentally with this Epstein scandal. I can't shake the feeling that they're related in some way. Now, maybe that's crazy, but I feel like there's something to do with that. And then to see it in the Times of Israel reported over there, it was just a little bit too on the nose. It was a little freaky.
I mean, obviously, Israel wants us to go to full war with Iran. This was just phase one. Where do you see that going? And why do you, gut level, you make the joke, I say that, but it's true, think Trump did the perfect Streisand effect? He can't be that stupid. Why did he act like that?
I think he just made a mistake. I think if anybody fumbled it, it was the Department of Justice. I think that Trump, he hates it. You could tell. He's angry. Like, you could see it in his face. When Elon Musk put out that tweet, I think it was back in June or May, when Trump was asked about it at a luncheon about an hour later, you could read it. I mean, this guy does not have a poker face. He was livid. He was seething. And I think he still is. Every time it's brought up, like, he cannot handle this. So I don't think it's necessarily Trump that is Streisand affecting this. I think it might be the administration. It might be elements inside the government. I think that somebody spiked it and now they don't know how to deal with it. Or maybe Trump knows that there's something in there that's going to be problematic for him in some way. Obviously there is, because he ordered the FBI to look through the files. They told him that they found his name all over the files. We don't know what's in them. So it's hard to say exactly why, the psychology of Trump, what's happening inside of his head. I think that's organic. I think that's just his real reaction. I think gut level, the big play is they want to go back into Iran. This has been reported widely. The clouds are gathering all over again. The snapback sanction deadline is at the end of August. I think Israel is going to go back into Iran. And I think they expect that the United States is going to come in heavy and it's going to be a major war. That's kind of where I see this going. And maybe getting rid of the Epstein.
I agree with you, Nick. So I got you on here to debate you on the police state martial law thing, but then I actually heard what you had to say. I overall agree with you. But that's all my intel. And I predicted this. I said they're going to say Melania it was a hooker for Epstein, which they already recycled 8 years ago. And they're going to put in the Jane Does that were fake. Trump got pissed because he'd already made a deal with the CIA and Mossad to just kind of shelve it. They still came back and stung him in the ass with it. He throws a fit about it because that's the deal he's got, which I'm not agreeing with that deal. People go, Jones agrees with Trump making that deal. Look, I've been read in on it, okay? Let's just say people close to the president. Because it's so many public officials, so much big stuff, it would bring down the stock market, he believes. I'm not saying that's the right way to go. I said they're going to stab me in the back. Then it turns out they put his wife in there. Now they admit it isn't true. Now she's going to sue him for $1 billion, Hunter Biden. You can see this. And again, folks, Trump's 79. He's very smart in many ways, has some good instincts. but he's super busy 20 hours a day. They just hand him stuff. And Kyle Serafin's a big FBI whistleblower. He gets proven right all the time, most 99% of the time. He said 4 or 5 months ago when they were raiding the FBI and New York for not giving over the documents, the feds were raiding the feds. He said, you're not getting it, and it's a cover-up. And he said, and now they got the PR people, are the same people that were there before. They're going to tell the DOJ what to do. They just go to press conference and PR function and dinner after dinner. They're just titular heads. Bongino, Patel, Bondi, literally just Fox News host. And they're setting them up with stuff, with this Epstein file, saying it's all there, and it's all going to be BS on Trump. He literally called it all, and they just took that giant trap. And so people, the Q people, God love them. I know JFK Jr., he's really the president, and Hillary's in Gitmo. They're having a big problem now, but they just get more delusional, and they literally think Trump has like a 5,000 IQ. Like there's Trump, Q, and then God. Okay, like God's junior to them. And I wonder what it's like when they go to Dealey Plaza 3 years ago or 4 years ago, and JFK Jr. doesn't show up, and they just, there's indictments. Everybody's in Gitmo. And that's a whole other subject. I said there wouldn't be indictments the first administration. I've heard from high level, and so has Matt Taibbi and others. They said, no, we've been told we've got to, even if the cases don't stick, though they have a lot of evidence, our constituents demand it, which I totally agree with. So that's a whole nother subject. You want to speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as far as the the Q stuff is concerned, I mean, these people, I feel sorry for them. It's going to wind up like Heaven's Gate or something like that. I mean, it's pretty terrifying. I've seen it on Twitter. I get it all the time, the 5-dimensional chess and all that. I think that the big concern as far as the Epstein files are concerned is that there might be an impeachment. I think that they're playing on this because the Democrats are pushing so hard for a disclosure. They're coming back from the summer recess very soon. Like you said, they're going to subpoena all the records. They're keeping the pressure up. And you almost wonder if they're hanging it over his head for a potential impeachment when they lose the midterms in 2026. It's almost a given that the Democrats are going to take the House after the midterms. It's very rare that the Republicans, or rather the incumbent party, gains seats in the House. I think it's only happened once or twice in the last 80 years. So the Republicans with a 2 or 3 seat majority, they're almost certainly going to lose the House. And then you think about the map inside the Senate, and you can find 3 or 4 Republicans that would impeach Trump. So between a Democrat House, you're going to get maybe a few defectors in the Senate. There's like a real risk. And it reminds me a lot of what happened after January 6th, which is that after January 6th, Mitch McConnell was using impeachment, holding that over Trump's head to prevent him from doing something extreme. Everybody was worried that in that time between J6th and J20th in 2021, Trump is this lame duck. He's not accepting the results of the election. People worried he was going to do something radical. So Mitch McConnell said, there was, of course, the impeachment in the House. He said, I will let the vote go forward if you don't play ball. And I feel like that's how they've kind of been controlling him in some sense, to the extent that I think that Trump might have good intentions or might want the best for the country. To the extent that we can still believe that, you have to look at him as somebody who is under such immense pressure and really inside of a trap in the interregnum with all these charges from the DOJ, Georgia, and New York. And now in this second term, it's almost like double jeopardy now with the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. So you have to think that's in the back of his mind. You have to think that that's what people in the White House are thinking. Certainly the Democrats cannot wait to impeach him when they come back. And take the majority, with this no kings stuff that they're doing all the time. They're probably going to impeach him 100 times when they get back. So I think that is maybe the protracted long-term play on the whole Epstein thing. If I were to take a guess, I think that's what Trump is concerned about. I think that's the Democrats' angle. And you got to wonder then, who does Trump have to answer to prevent that from happening? And who runs the GOP in the Senate? It's pretty obvious who's running the show over there. They signed a letter a couple months ago saying Iran can never have enrichment. That gives you a pretty good idea of maybe what the ask is to forestall some kind of attack. So that's kind of my instinct on all that stuff. Maybe that's out there. Maybe that's outlandish, but just kind of paying attention how this is evolved.
I don't think it's outlandish. And what's crazy is I've studied the Epstein, one of the first people to ever cover it. It's mainly Democrats and a corporate blackmail money laundering operation. Trump would never go to Russia and get pissed on. It came out it's fake. He doesn't join the cult. He takes the cult over. Okay, he wants to be the apex guy. I don't mean that in a bad way. And I know the inside baseball. He never did any of this stuff. So him doing this, he just said yesterday, I'm meeting Putin in Russia, in Alaska. And folks, I, at 51, occasionally when I'm exhausted or tired and pushed too hard, like a few weeks ago with Nick, got up at 4:30, worked all day, a hard workout, did a bunch of shows, went home, hung out with the family. They got pizza and wings. And I'm on a diet most of the time, but I pigged out. And people are like, he's drunk. No, I was literally falling asleep. It was like a late night, 10 o'clock at night. I was gone. Folks, Trump does interviews at 2 a.m. now, okay? He sleeps 3-4 hours, all right? And so at 79, yeah, he goes and plays golf. A lot of times he's really smart, but he goes in and out of gear. And we're seeing more and more of it. And I don't say this like the Democrats to undermine. They said this 8 years ago. It wasn't true. For back then, 75, it was 73. Incredible stamina. Got great Scottish and German genes. But I'm telling you, folks, let's not lie. He's 79. His legs are swollen. His ankles are swollen. His hands are swollen. The guy's a bull. And they can't get him to stop working. They come and brief him. Oh, sir, there's a missile fired at 2 a.m. And he's on most of the time, but he's having to delegate to everybody. And so I'm not here being an apologist for Trump. All I know how to do is tell you from my research and what I see what's happening. And that's the final thing, Nick, and anything else you want to say, and I appreciate the time. It's been an interesting discussion and debate. How do you quantify or how do you do this? Because I'm not a lesser two evils guy, but also, if I'm in one ship that's only got a small leak and the other ship's sinking, I'm going to stay in the ship that's got a slow leak and isn't sunk yet, I get to land in. So I see the Democrats that want to put us all in jail. They're open pedophiles. They're open devil worshippers. They're openly trying to bankrupt things. They're pure evil. They're part of the globalist operation. Sure, they see Trump winning, so some of them are acting nice to his face. But he's fundamentally changing a lot of their systems and, Bitcoin in the National Reserve and 401ks and, just he goes on and on and on and on and overriding these federal judges and dominating them and getting a lot better appointments in. And it would take hours to talk about the good. I mean, it's 90+%. And I understand there's been some betrayals and the direction's starting to go the wrong way. So if it keeps going that way, it gets bad. But how do you separate that? Because listen, I have people not just coming to me talking about Nick Fuentes and all the stuff's going on. That happens a lot too. But the other thing I get is, I get it. I was at Barton Springs. I went twice this weekend because my 8-year-old daughter wanted to go twice. I don't go very often, but we went Saturday. She loved us. We went back Sunday. And it was mob, shaking hands, young, old, black, white. But I had like 5 people come over and go, when are we going to get indictments? When are we going to get this up? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, hey, whoa. They were like, I'm not in charge. And I get it, like I said, on the street everywhere. I even see the Newsmax reporters and stuff saying, hey, we're getting mobbed by people, demanding this stuff. So I want to try to stop the Democrats, block them 100%, try to get good Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene and others in, build our beachhead, support Trump where he's doing good, try to put pressure on the administration and expose bad actors where we can, where we've already had a lot of effect. We know it has an effect. To me, taking the ball and going home, I'm not saying you've done that, but saying I'm done with Trump 2 years ago, you warned of the Israel thing. You were right about that. I get that. Isn't it when it's the only thing we got, try to then even more jump on it to try to get it to do what we want? I mean, it's threading the needle there, but do you get where I'm going?
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. And I think I used to be more of that mindset in the very beginning in 2017, 2018. But look, it's been 10 years. Trump came down the escalator 10 years ago. And I look at where we are now in the White House, and it's like, look, they backed down on the deportations in February. In February, they said it's not going to be mass deportations. And by the way, I know you are 100% right. When you say ICE does not have the personnel, that is a fact. They do not have the personnel. They do not have the infrastructure, the funds. They're spinning it up. It takes time. I get all that. You're 100% right. But from the top in February, they said We're not going after the farm workers. We're not going after the construction workers because that's going to hurt the economy. And the situation with Iran, we go from we're not going to get involved to we are to we're bombing them to, well, we're going to support regime change maybe if it comes from the bottom up. And it's like here we are 10 years later and NATO has gotten stronger. You know, NATO's spending more money. We're bombing Iran. Greater Israel is literally within sight. They're annexing Gaza and the West Bank. You have the Epstein files being covered up. There's no accountability for the Democrats, for Clinton, Obama. There's no hearings. There's no charges. There's no nothing. And so it's like 10 years later, you got to say, look, this is not the revolution that was promised. This is not the accountability, the anti-corruption, the make America great again. We didn't get what we were promised. Now, there's kind of like two things that we can conclude from that. In the first place, we have to express our dissatisfaction. I am not of the mind that it is helping anything to be on Twitter, like, and I'm not saying this is you, but other people say, no matter what Trump does, we have to support it. You have been critical when it matters. There are so many people that say, no, just trust the plan. It's all going to work out. No, at the minimum, we have to express our dissatisfaction. If Trump will ever deliver anything good, it is because he needs to please his base. He needs to please his base to win elections, to win the midterms, to have political capital. So at the minimum, we need to charge him for that and say, if you want our support, you got to make us happy. That's one. But two, this is maybe the more radical side of me, says, I feel like even the idea that we're in this game where we're fighting for the personnel and, you know, we're on Twitter, please, Trump, don't do this. Please, Trump, do that. It feels like we're on a hamster wheel. It feels like a big diversion. It feels like we're negotiating with ourselves. And we're sort of saying to ourselves, oh, you know, we're in this fight. We're fighting this uphill battle. But it's like, let's be honest. Trump has cucked out every time it has mattered. In the first term, we didn't get a wall, so we got 10 million illegals 4 years later. In the first term, Trump made the vaccine, and then we got the vaccine mandate. It's like this stuff keeps happening. And my kind of game theory is to say, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result is insane. You know, if we keep doing these things and the chance of them succeeding is zero, let's just try something else. That's why I have always been a proponent of saying, let's just stay home. Let's have a protest candidate. Let's run somebody like Ye.
Let me stop you. Let me stop you right there, and I want you to finish up and elaborate. I just want to say, I totally agree with you, and let's talk about this briefly. We really saw this because I've been online a long time. I can tell the groups, I can go check it. We know we had groups check what I already thought was true. We had big Pentagon bot farms, Israeli bot farms, neocon right-wing bot farms, and then the Ben Shapiros and the Mark Levins and all the usual suspects come out instantly when Israel was cranking up to, you know, try to drag us into war with Iran a few months ago and say, you're not real MAGA, you're imposters, and you're pro-Islam, and you're really leftist. And I immediately saw them flag all our accounts. I saw our traffic get driven down, which bounced back up because people saw through it. And I saw the attack calling me and you and everybody else these traitors. And they can say, oh, Fuentes is really a liberal. Fuentes is really CIA. I don't believe that, but I can tell you this guy 100% isn't. Because I know me. I know my mama and daddy. Okay, and so the same people doing that to him were doing it to me. I'm not talking about Tucker and people now. That's why it was weird to have them come in later. This was the bad guys. And Trump, don't be a panicking and all this stuff. Hey, buddy, we're holding your feet to the firing. We are demanding. We are telling you what to doing. We are in a charging, not a panicking. We brought you in. Populism is happening all over the world, 1776 worldwide. And I said many times they would say, you're a panicking. You're a fake Trump supporter. I'm like, listen, I'm not make America great again, bitch. I supported that idea and that movement. I am 1776 against the tyrants. I am revolution against tyranny. I am freedom here and worldwide. I am America, all right? And I've been on there 31 years, and we are credited by the sociologists and the mainstream Democrats in the textbooks. That's why they hate me. Ron Paul and Alex Jones, our listeners and viewers, we were just focal point, went in and took over Dick Armey's Tea Party in the late 90s, okay? It happened. We took it over. A third of the people at Trump's event there in Cleveland when he got the nomination in 2016 were wearing my shirts. The media saw it. They finally freaked out. They finally recognized, oh my God, this is powerful and grassroots. Then they came after me. The knives came out. Just like they finally figured out, oh, we can't just call Nick, you know, Hitler or a gay kid. That doesn't work, so now let's destroy him. They went, whoa. When they went there and had airplanes flying around with Hillary's a rapist and, you know, big vans with TVs flashing it and a third of the people, 100,000 people wearing my shirt, they went into war mode because they were still so arrogant up in their towers, some of the Democrats. So the fight is about taking control of the Republican Party, keeping control of the Republican Party, and that's what I'm saying is, I was never Make America Great Again. We helped create the launch pad for it, and I want to make America great again, but I want to make America free again. I want to stop the globalist tyranny. I want 1776 worldwide, which is happening. And so MAGA is some little thing. It's not like I'm some guy in junior high that wants to be in the cool kid class and I run for school president and I'm kissing everybody's ass and going to Toastmasters so I know how to properly fold a napkin. I'm here to wreck the globalist. I'm here to deliver war on their ass with the truth. I am here to overturn them. I am here to politically, nonviolently burn them down. And so I get where you're coming from, Nick, to be pro-Trump, get in the system, have them persecute you, kick you out because you wouldn't submit to Israel worship. To me, it's the same thing. You try to make me engage in Trump worship, it triggers me. I just want to be careful that I don't get too emotional over that and then not continue, because some Trump supporters are more sophisticated than Democrats, but Trump's not a cult, but they want to be in a cult. I want to nicely try to explain to them so they don't, get mad, because they think anything coming out of the administration came out of Trump and 55 trillion D beyond God chess, okay? All right, I mean, they could, get in the toilet when Trump takes a shit and read the entrails, like tea leaves to see the future. I mean, they would worship Trump's shit. So my deal is, I know the real world, and I know, here's what I meant to say. You say it so quick like you do, but here's the key. They didn't have all those bots ready day one to attack us all with talking points and a massive conservative and corporate media attack because we're weak. It's because we're strong, all of us, the people watching. And they had to come in there and do that because they're scared of Trump's base. So all I'm saying is don't give up to everybody. Don't walk away. Be critical, support what's good, and also be very vocal on what's wrong, because that's what the globalists, I mean, the whole BlackRock, Pentagon, Israel, the whole blob wants that. And I'm just saying, support the areas of good things we're getting, support the good members of the administration, but at the same time, then hold Trump's feet to the fire, and that means his administrators. I mean, I've got Kyle Seraphin on. Every week he lists FBI agents that are deep staters, they fire them. But Patel do all that. And the fact is, we have to do that. You think I want to sit here every week and target high-level FBI deputy directors and people?
Right.
No, but you think I want to fly airplanes around the country saying Bill Clinton's a rapist and pay listeners $10,000 a piece if they got on public TV and called him that? We paid out $500,000. You want to run him on a hit list? So to anybody out there, and I don't need to say all this, but Nick, I'm watching Nick. He's inspired me to actually talk about bona fides, because Nick's got a lot of bona fides. Means things he's done. Notches on the gun belt. Guys, the idea that I'm CIA or I work for the establishment, holy hell, all I do is wreck it. And I'm a testimony with me and my crew and my family that we've gone through this together. And that's why I know there are real people like Nick. I know there are real people like you. Like I said to Nick a few months ago, he agreed. The devil's biggest trick isn't that he doesn't exist. That's the second biggest. It's that good doesn't exist. You know you're good. So for the mentally ill Q people that think I'm a clone, or the left that thinks I'm really a Nazi, no, guys, you're the ones that are bad. We're the ones that are grassroots. We're the ones that brought the receipts. Nick's already got a 10-year record himself. I can't imagine what it's like when he's 50. So this is a magic moment right now, and 100%, we have the power. We need to use it. Nick, closing statement. Anything else you want to have?
Absolutely. I agree. And I think it is about fundamentally, and I think you said it so beautifully, there has to be on some level a decoupling. It's no longer MAGA. It is 1776. It's America first. We need to assert our interest first. It's not about Trump. It's not about this administration. It's about this country. It's about America first. So I think people should keep speaking up, and I think they should keep their options open. and not be beholden to a politician, even one that you like, even one you agree with. We need to keep our options open and keep our eyes focused on the prize. So those are my closing thoughts, but it's been great to be with you. Great debate, great conversation. Always is. I know you're not a clone. I've met you. Same guy, not cloned, not anybody, no weird stuff going on.
Nick, as you did a quick closing statement, you always quantify it quickly. We're not selling our birthright to Trump and his family in some dynasty. We're not in a cult, and we're not setting up some new aristocracy or some new royal line. No, we're 1776. We're Americans. If somebody supports that and is good, we'll defend them. But again, this idea they've tried to sell the Republican Party of now Trump's gone through all this, he's the royalty, don't question, that's a damn cult.
Yes, I'm moving to Iowa. I think that, you always ask me, what's the play? What's the next move? I think the next 3 years, to be honest with you, are cooked. And I know you're in it to win it. I know you're pushing Trump, and I know people in the administration. But you know what I think about? I think about how Mark Levin had lunch with Trump a week before the war in Iran. I think about how Laura Loomer enjoys like unlimited access to the president. Darren Beattie has a job at the State Department. Darren Beattie runs Revolver. Why does Alex Jones not get invited to have lunch with the president? I'm sure you probably could if you push for it. And I know people in the White House, but it's like the real patriots don't have a seat at the table like the neocons do. Susie Wiles and these other people that are inside the administration, they weren't loyal to Trump throughout. Trump's campaign manager on January 6th was saying, this guy needs to be put in jail. For what it's worth, Tucker had his text messages published and said, I hate Trump. I can't wait until he's gone. Why is it that people that are disloyal have access, but the people that were loyal and are loyal to the movement have no access and seem to have very little influence over the president? So for me, it's like, if I don't have a seat at the table, I'm going to flip the table over. And if you don't want that, then give me a seat at the damn table.
Well,
and I feel like the next...
absolutely. Freedom is not given. It's demanded, enforced. And so it's an important discussion, important debate. I agree about 9% what you said, but it's all been eloquently stated. And just to be clear, I have been invited to Mar-a-Lago. I have been invited to the White House. And when it happens, I just go, oh, sure. And then I don't actually do it. And it's not that I'm a wimp, but they still got moles in there and everything. I can do everything on the outside way better than politics. And going and having dinner with Trump and 10 other people and being patted on the head, what happens is, as soon as that happens, and again, I'll tell the truth on air, and whatever happens, happens. But for some reason, that triggers them so bad, the deep state, it's like putting kryptonite next to a nuclear weapon or whatever, or two kryptonites together. They just go crazy. So I have been, and they tried to spin it that I was offered to be bribed, and I guess I was too simplistic about it. No, when I was criticizing Trump on the Epstein thing, I got White House calls saying, we think you're right. We don't know why he's doing this. There's no evidence. He gets really mad. What do you want? I mean, like, what do you want us to do? It wasn't like, oh, we'll give you a bag of money. It was like, what do you want? What do you think we should do? But it was also like, what do you want? You want, so a little bit of that, but not like, oh, there's a bag of money here. But nobody offered me bribe me. That's what they do. But that's what most people do, is they're there just to get a job. They're to do that. No, I want to build my own thing. That's what freedom is all about. Are you doing your stream tonight, Nick?
Yes. Yeah, I'll be going live in a couple of hours.
But you never give people the time. So what time is it tonight?
I'm feeling 9:30. Feeling 9:30 Central tonight.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you get ready for that in less than an hour and a half, or I guess that's 2 hours, 25 minutes. All right. Nick J. Fuentes on Rumble. Again, they say I can play the clips, even new ones at universities. Whites are all evil. Christians are all evil. The ADL's funding it. So you can't be mad at Nick saying then, the ADL's bad, and give them their own medicine back. And that's why the rules have changed. I don't want to go down this road. It's the globalists that brought us here. Nick Fuentes, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that was a good debate discussion. And I keep trying to debate him, but I overall, he has arguments. But I'll tell you this, the Democrats are on record plan to burn the country down and do false flags on illegal aliens and trigger a race war. And I'm trying to get ahead of that and stop it. So, quite frankly, I think Trump should gear up more troops and get ready for that. I get down the road, it can become a problem, but these troops are not being trained. And I mentioned this at the start, and I've forgotten it, and because I hadn't seen this article yet. And I'm glad that the crew found it, reminded me, because I said I'd give you an update at the end of the Nick Fuentes discussion or debate. And here it is. Here it is right here. Yeah, we've survived by your support and the grace of God. This broke at 7 o'clock tonight on the Communist Globalist CIA Network, NPR. InfoWars conspiracyists, whatever word that means, conspiracyists. Alex Jones loses another legal battle. Did I lose a legal battle? No, I didn't. But my lawyers asked me today, that's what I was not on air for, and I didn't go in the courtroom. I was just there nearby watching in case I was needed for different reasons. So I wasn't called when it put me in front of Guerra Gamble that ran the first show trial with HBO. The federal judge has blocked any receiver or any grabbing of free speech systems. The Democrats don't want money. They don't want to settle it. They want to shut down. They've said that in the filings. And they went a year ago or 11 months ago, got a receiver, and then that got blocked, and then he committed suicide a few months ago. So they went back to Guerra Gamble. They got a new one. But she said today, I don't care what the federal judge said. I don't care about any of this. I'm ordering the receivership, and here is the turnover order to seize InfoWars to give it to the Travis County Sheriff's Department. So they could potentially be here tomorrow morning. Probably not. Probably next week or something. Zoom in on that. But let's show the HD version of it. But that's why she says that I've been dealt another legal battle. The federal judge has a stay on it, and it's on appeal. It's cut and dry. You can't do that. But they couldn't have a fake auction. They said they had a public auction. It was fake. They gave it to Bloomberg and The Onion. That got overridden. Without court orders, they ordered the building closed. I stayed in the building. That got overridden. There's Bloomberg. Alex Jones, InfoWars assets to be taken over by receiver. The assets are in federal bankruptcy and are already under the U.S. trustee who's been working with the bad guys. Now they're planning to go to him and have him sign them over, even though the judge has blocked it. So it's all coming to a head. But we got the Alex Jones Network back up. I don't own it. I don't own the AlexJonesStore.com, so they can't seize that. That'll fund us into the future. But everybody that's like, oh, I get congratulated on all these talk shows and on the street. Hey, you beat him. Ha, 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 The Onion. I'm like, we beat him. No, we just won that round. Yeah, we're now in the fourth quarter here. So I need your support at the AlexJonesStore.com. Plus, we have incredible products. Ultramethylene Blue. This new colostrum is just these superfoods. It's all amazing. Tactical battle daggers, trench knives, limited edition, selling out quickly, all discounted up to 40%. Right now at the AlexJonesStore.com. It takes money to fight these people, but without giving away legal strategy, let's just say this. This is not going to make the federal judge happy because this is cut and dry. You already have the Democrat Court of Appeals signaling, even Bloomberg reports they're going to.
Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it. Wasn't too much of a debate, more than just a good discussion. I'd like to see an actual debate, though. Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes. I do like what they said about the whole, Trump cult thing. Don't be in a cult, make your own decisions, make your own mind up, research things to the fullest. But I would say this on Trump's behalf. We are only 6-7 months in. We got another 3 years left. So I'm not willing to throw the baby out with the bathwater just yet, but it has been a wild start. He has done a lot of good things too. So only time will tell. the story will write itself as it goes, and we'll be there to analyze it and to judge it, I guess. That'll be our job. All right, everybody. Thank you for coming. Have a good night, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.